It's not like the sexiest committee, but in terms of day-to-day life, we've had so much more opportunity to impact the way the Army Corps of Engineers operates, which helps us with growth and development. Everything from the VA to, it is everywhere that the federal government spends money, we're able to put some influence on. And I'm able to influence it with regards to how we want to live and operate here in what I think is the best region in the country. So we finished all 12 of those out of committee. We passed all 12 of those off the floor, which is the first time that's been done in almost a decade. What you've been seeing is a couple will pass the floor, a couple will pass in the Senate, and then at the end of the year, somebody, I don't know who, somebody behind closed doors has to negotiate a final spending bill. That is not how we were supposed to run. That is not how we were created to run. Congress gave the House the power of the purse. They gave us the budget with the expectation that we would comb through every dollar that we spend every year. And then if we don't do it right, we're up for election every 2 years, we can get thrown out of office. I think that the founders built that accountability in on purpose, because they want your money to be overseen and overseen properly. So we've, after a lot of pushing and fighting, we're able to get all those bills off the House floor. Every single member of Congress was able to weigh in on those. There were both Republican and Democrat amendments accepted to those. There was very lively debate about a number of provisions there. And that's not going to make headlines or nightly news because it's not sexy, but it's good functioning government. And we need to get more of that. So my hope is, now on the flip side, I don't know that the Senate is going to get all their 12 bills out, so they won't individually be voted off the Senate floor, but rest assured knowing that we've combed those bills in the House, and whatever final agreement is brokered, it'll be using what we've put together, what we've had our hands on, what we've seen, and the accountability measures that we've built in. Who knows? My hope would be we get to the point where the Senate passes all 12 of theirs and they all individually pass. I can hope. I wanted to mention something that we did get hung in the transportation piece of one of those bills off the House floor, and it has to do with, I don't know if anybody has caught this, it's just starting to bubble up, but Oregon in their most recent legislative session passed a measure that required the state to come up with a way to toll at the state line of both I-5 and 205. Oregon State Legislature. And they want to use those tolls. It's a little nebulous, but what in digging through the legislation, what I found was their main goal is traffic or congestion relief, which I don't know about you, but I've commuted across that bridge. I want congestion relief. The challenge is the planning. What we've seen that they want to do is essentially what it looks like is toll for toll's sake. So not necessarily going to expand the throughway, right? Give us more lanes, new on-ramps, off-ramps, bring safety into play. Their goal is to make it more difficult for folks who essentially commute from Southwest Washington who have to work in Portland. They're calling it congestion pricing, meaning you'll pay more if you have the unfortunate but life experience of working for someone. And they set your hours, say they set you an 8 to 5, 9 to 5, you're going to have to go at rush hour. And Oregon is saying, well, we're going to charge you more for that. So if you're a working mom or dad, and I know some of these folks are commuting from Cowlitz County, and you're not the CEO, you don't have the ability to just change your hours, they want to take a toll, possibly an expensive toll. And they're not going to use it from what we've seen. They've committed, actually, they say, well, we don't know how we're going to use it, but the earliest drafts of their legislation say they're not going to use it to make it easier to cross. They're going to use it to fund the tolling system. So they're tolling for tolling's sake. I don't know about you, but that is not a good plan in my view. It means that fixing the bridge isn't going to come into play. It means that actual congestion relief is not going to come into play. It's more of the way I see it, it's an ideological bent out of folks in Portland. And I think as a region, we are economically one region, and we do work well together in many ways. And my message, both to the Oregon governor and to the legislature, has been, don't drive this wedge between us. Don't pick the pocket of people who have no political voice. That is it's unjust, and it, quite frankly, is one of the reasons our country was founded, right? Taxation without representation is essentially what that is. So in the appropriations bill, I hung an amendment, which means I got an amendment adopted, that said that no tolls are going to be put on 205 and I-5 at the state line. Now, granted, these bills, as I shared with you a little bit earlier, the nature of these bills, they're one-year bills. So I've only got that hold in place for this year. So what I'm working on right now is both engaging our senators, because we're gonna need their help. So we got it off the House floor this way, and maybe we can keep it in for next year. That's gonna be my goal. I'm also working with the US DOT to figure out how to get my arms around this. But we need their help. They need to step up and say, and we're going to protect this provision in the Senate. And our message isn't, don't ever toll. I know nobody loves tolls. But it's, if you're going to toll, you have to do it justly. And it needs to be a user fee. That person that pays that toll should see a benefit from it. It shouldn't just be punitive. That's ridiculous. That's if you do tolls, right? And whatever agreement takes place with regard to fixing that bridge needs to come from not just Oregon's, budget crunch, but it needs to include the input and the say-so of our state lawmakers and our governor. And so I put that hold in place to send the message. We are not going to roll over and take this. I will not allow people's pockets to be picked for ideological purposes. That I will not abide that. And it's also giving me some time also to pull in some partners. We need the governor's help, and we need our senators' help on this. And we are reaching out to them. So stay tuned on that. But that's just the beginning. Their plan is to put something in place to make an application to US DOT by 2018. So I thought that was something that should be on your radar, should be on people's radar, because it will directly impact our economy. And my message continues to be, look, I'm not against tolls for the sake of tolls, but you cannot use them unfairly, especially on people who have no choice, right? If you've got the money and the business, you're gonna find a way around driving to Portland. People who have to do that because they need the income, because they need the job. So you're picking the pocket of working folks, and not on my watch. So there's one. The other piece, let's see, there are some other priorities that I wanted to make you aware of that we got in the bill. Has to do with wildfire prevention. Anybody noticed anything about our air quality recently? Like in the waning day, I too am so disappointed that summer is going. It's funny, I grew up here, so I should love the gray, and a gray day is nice every now and then, but I'm starting to really enjoy the sunshine, especially when you have children who get cabin fever. But the air quality was so bad in the last week, I didn't even want to take my kiddos outside because, something has to be done. Our federal forests have been burning, and there's not a good reason for it. On one hand, we're working on legislation to require, and I've been working with the U.S. Forest Service to require them just to live up to current law, right? Which is go in, clean up the forest floor, sell some timber. You're not going to clear cut the whole forest, but you're going to make it healthy by providing a diversity of age class with these different tree stands, right? That way a fire is not going to take everything out. But they haven't been doing that. So we're pushing them on that front. On the appropriation side, we've also put money into preventing and cleaning up and making sure they have the money to deal with these forest fires. My hat does go off to our firefighters who've been fighting these, and our prayers. But we've also put our money where our mouth is. I think we put about 3.5 billion into wildland firefighting in this appropriations bill. I also got a provision included, switching gears a little bit, but still on the resource side, with regard to invasive species. It's so funny, these things will never be the top of the nightly news, but it's pretty important. Invasive species can destroy things like our hydro system, or really some of our pristine lakes and rivers. So quagga mussels, these nasty little critters that attach to watercraft, and they're all over. I think they're finally in the Great Lakes, and they destroy ecosystems. We've put a lot of money into inspection stations and preventing that, because it takes just one to come on a boat up into, pick an area, and then we've got a major problem. We've finally gotten some money into some of that prevention, and we're hopeful that with the invasive, we're going to prevent the major infestation that we've seen in the Great Lakes and even into California. I mean, California is battling this right now, which is what makes us nervous. We have a lot of recreators who come up to our neck of the woods, and it just takes one of them not making sure their watercraft is clear and clean before it goes into one of our rivers. Another piece, and I think I just saw, we're hopefully going to be getting an update from Sheriff Nelson on this, but something that's not news to anybody in this room is the drug epidemic, the opioid epidemic that's taking place up and down I-5. It's being felt particularly hard hit here in Cowlitz County. I think I didn't realize this, Cowlitz County has the highest opioid-related death per capita in the state, which is a tall problem. We got almost $30 million in federal grants for counties just like ours, to help people fight the overuse and abuse of opioid deaths. And obviously our goal is to change lives, but we're also trying to focus some on intervention and prevention, because you got to stop the problem before it starts. We've also made sure that this money is available for new hires within law enforcement, so it's not just on the program side, but also getting more bodies on the ground to help with this effort. And I know Sheriff Nelson's really been a leader on this. He's given me some good tips on things I can be working on. I will mention a couple more things, and then we'll switch it over to questions. We got a military pay raise in there. We got some more money for helping with cancer, TBI, and mental health issues within our returning veterans, our returning military members. And we got, I think, let's see, within the VA, we've been fighting them for a number of years now just to clean up the wait times. And what I've gotten to, what I now understand is the reason the wait times have not been decreasing has to do with the staff turnover. And this sounds kind of inane, but when they have people on a list, and then you've got a number of physicians, I think there was like 70 plus vacancies, and it takes them over 130 days to fill a vacancy, it exacerbates the problem. So I'm now requiring our VA to tell me exactly how many vacancies they have and report to Congress on the number of days it takes to fill them, and if they aren't filling them in a timely manner, we are requiring them to come up with a new system. Because it's not that they don't have the money. That was my first question, is do you not have the money to hire the staff to make sure our veterans aren't waiting in line? And the answer basically came back, no. It's just kind of a bureaucratic issue. And some of it is the culture. I had an amendment on the floor a couple months ago that had to do with whistleblower protection. So there has been within providers, even those who volunteer their time there have said, under the radar and anonymously, there is a culture there where you can't even speak up to change things in a positive way because of fear of retribution. That's part of why there's such a turnover. It's not the greatest place for them to work. We had to put in place a provision that would allow them to give honest feedback anonymously so that we can fix this problem in this culture, specifically within our own Portland VA. So I wanted you to know we are on it. We are following it closely. We're requiring action of the VA. We've had almost 90 cases finished since January for veterans. If you know a veteran or have a friend or a loved one who is having a problem with the VA, send them to me. We want you to be able to just go in and get the service you deserve, but if that's not happening, that is also what I'm here for. And that's true for any of the federal agencies, but I always have to highlight it with our veterans because I feel like they always get put in line and it frustrates the tar out of me. All right, tar. I'm not going to tell you what I heard my daughter say last night. My jaw dropped. So, we're learning. She's got a lot of personality. I appreciate so much your opportunity to come and give you just an update, and I thank you for your time. And with that, President Cindy, I'll turn it back over to you. Are we going to do anything? Do they want questions? I don't think we get to stay, but if they want to do it too. Okay, it's up to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are the best. These are the best beer mugs.
It was very informative. She's not going to be able to stay for afterwards for questions, but I'm sure she's available by phone or email or
We leave cards.
cards.
We leave cards. We'll leave cards at the front.